Hello guys, good morning. So basically we are going to be looking at the step index market, and it's been a while I looked at this pair. Basically I would like us to do like a general breakdown on this particular market. Let's see how the market has been behaving, implementing our strategy. So we'll click on this. We have the 24 hours time frame. Now on the 24 hours time frame, one thing we can easily see is we can see that market has been on a downtrend. So that doesn't mean we are ignoring this move to the upside. So what I'll simply do is let's put it to the line graph. So what I'll simply do is we can align this and find out that price has been tapping these areas, pushing to the upside, down, up, down, and all the way to where price broke structure here. So that is a good information for us. If we connect it also from this point, I like connecting from the lowest point to the next higher low. So it aligned here, we can simply do our adjusting it, which is fine. There you saw we saw the break and retest. Now one thing we saw also at this area is price reacted from this our zone. So after giving a break, it came back to the zone, reacted to the zone, and it gave a wonderful drop. So now that is what we can see around here. But now something very something we can also look at that happened on this particular market is the low which created this break is an important area to look out for, and that is where I'm going to draw my trend line from for us to know if we could be possibly seeing a bounce, if this place is a good place to trade, and all of those information. So first of all, we'll connect from this. Basically, it's supposed to be from the highest point, but we can easily see this place connecting from this point to this next area. So when we do that, that is connecting your trend line from the high to the lower high. So when we do that, basically something we can easily see is that price reacted from this point and it dropped. The two times price got to this point, it dropped, which is it's fair enough, it's okay. Now I want to mark some areas which are levels I will consider as lows. So I want to mark this point here. When price got there, it gave us a break. It makes sense. When price got here, it was a break of structure. It makes sense. I'll mark that also. So if you followed me from where I started my analysis, you understand what I'm doing basically. Now when price got to this area also, it gave us a break. Now it's a kind of a relative break in the sense this is the lowest point where it gave the break. This is also a major point. So but then I'll just mark this area. I don't want to increase my line, make it thicker and mark multiple areas. Now apart from that, we have a trend to the downside. You see we connected our previous trend line from this high to this low. Now we're connecting now from this structure that got broken, connecting from this particular point. We're connecting our trend line from this particular point to this particular point. Now when we connect it to this particular point, you can see price got to that point. And when price got there, it bounced into the zone, reacted from the zone basically, and continued dropping. But now that has already happened. So now let's adjust it. We'll adjust our trend line now to this particular point. So adjust it to this particular point. That gives us a clearer message. What's the message we are getting? We are clearly getting that we have price reacting from this area to we expect it to get to this point, which is this area. So that's being the case, we've gotten the message we are looking for. Let's go to the 4 hours time frame. Now on the 4 hours time frame, I'm basically going to be using this to adjust what I'm looking out for. You understand? So I'm using this 4 hours time frame to adjust what I'm looking out for. So we have this point, we have this point, yes, and that is good, it's good enough. Then we'll adjust this to this point, that is good enough. So those who like trading step index, this is for you. So I'll adjust it again to this point. Now what am I doing? I simply adjusted my trend line from this point to this point. Now we have a clean wave pattern we are looking out for, which helps us understand that whenever we see price tap this area here, we understand that it's a point we should be looking out for reversals, which is to the upside. It can either go back to this zone, which is this point. Now let me adjust this guy. This guy becomes clear on the 4 hours. We adjust this one also, it becomes clearer on the 4 hours. We adjust this guy, it becomes clearer on the 4 hours. So that's what we have. Now, in addition, we would simply go down to put in our candlestick chart. So we have the information we are looking for. Makes sense, makes sense. Okay. So we are working from this place. We already understand that it's a downtrend. So first of all, we are going to be looking for majorly sales, and we are going to be looking for majorly sales. In order to check out for some information here, we had a break of structure from this particular zone to this zone, which now created a new break of structure. Let's tend to look out for the points basically. So we have this point here, which is from this point to this point. I would like to use this trend line. Let me see. Okay, I've extended it. I would try to okay, well, let's just use it the way it is. No need to adjust it. I wanted to adjust the two. So now we'll mark from here to this point, from this point to this point. Now it's supposed to be from here to here, you get, but then because of this overall high we have here, we now adjust our trend line to this point, and we can see what happened. Clean break of trend line. We have this was a good low, this was another good point. This is a major trend line. There was a trend line which moved from this particular point to this point. Those who took the trade would have used that to catch this break. Now we have this area here, a trend line break, and another trend line break moving from this point to this point basically. So whichever way you want to go about it, adjusting all of that, it's fine. You get, it's fine. So that's that for that. Now we have a good one at that area. Another one we have here is from this zone to this zone. Yeah, from this zone to this zone. It will be clear on the 1 hour time frame basically, which we would get there shortly. And we have this one. This one basically from here to this point, but I don't like that trend line, but it still gave us information, because that trend line was the trend line which helped us to identify this drop from here basically to this point, was where whomever took the trade will be looking to take profit. Now this particular low is the new low for take profit. Either price reacts from this point or goes into the zone before dropping, whichever, this area will be the next level for take profit. So that being the case, our trend lines have been drawn. Let's go to the 1 hour time frame. On the 1 hour time frame, I'm not willing to adjust any trend line here. I'll simply just fix our candlesticks. So we have a good one here. This is another trend line we have for the step index. This is another trend line we have for step index. So now basically there are two things which one will be looking out for. Alright. It's okay. Okay, so basically, let me restart the timer. So it was notifying me. I set it to 10 minutes. So basically, the timer was notifying me that 10 minutes has elapsed. You get. So I'm just going to reset that. I just reset that basically. So now we have this particular area, which is the zone which created this drop. Now I want to explain something to you guys. And we have this area. We have a lot of areas, zones which created a sell-off. You get. I won't want to go into detail explaining different areas. You get. I'll also try to explain what I'm anticipating on this point. I can see a very wonderful entry here. So that is that. Now, for this particular one, which we had a clear break of trend line here, I would use this one here. Okay, I'll leave that. So one thing we saw here was when you go to your line graph, you clearly see that uh a good zone to plot our trend line. You clearly see we had a good zone to plot our trend line, which is this. Now another thing you would also see is when we take it down to candlestick, we can see the different highs which helped us to mark zones. So I would like to go to the 15 minutes time frame where I can see the picture of things clearer. So on the 15 minutes time frame, yes, I am able to see things clearer here. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for all these highs, which are these levels, these levels. So I'm looking for those levels because those levels are what will help me identify what I can do on how I can take my next entry. You get. So now we would mark those levels. We have this point. Now when we mark it, you would already begin to see the reaction of price at those levels. So it's very important and it's what it is. We'll mark this area also, and we would also mark this area, not leaving any place, any stone unturned. We would also mark this area. This is something that looks a little bit significant. Then you can see this area also. So now this is the thing. This is the thing. Now, what are you going to be looking for in order to be able to take a trade? You are basically going to be looking for price to react for a particular zone. Now this point I'm marking is just the area we'll be looking for take profit area. You understand? Now we use 1 hour for take profit. If you have any questions on that, you can drop it in the comment section. I would reply to you. Now we use this lowest point for take profit. Now how do we make our entries? We first of all watch when price is breaking the trend line. We want to see a clear break of trend line. How do we identify a clear break of trend line? A clear break of trend line is a point where we have the full candlestick, the full bearish candlestick close below our trend line. And that particular confirmation was gotten at this point here. You see we had a full close below our trend line. That's fine. And we also have a high signifying change in direction of markets. Now, that being the case, one other thing we saw again in alignment with this change of trend line was that price came to react from our zones, which are these highs, all these points. You can see it came to react at this point, but it didn't really tap into this particular major one we looked out for. It tapped into this one and reacted fine, and it came back, tapped into this one, reacted. So that's a good one. And after price reacted into the high, it went into this zone here, but I didn't want to mark the full zone, so we are not doing things that it might not really be what we are looking out for. So when do we make an entry? We make an entry when two entries you can make. One is when you see a close of trend line, close of bearish candlestick below your trend line. That is an entry. But now that is an entry using the trend line formula. But now the trend line formula stop loss is always big. It's always big. So if you're using the trend line formula, you're going to be taking your entry here and putting your stop loss at the top there, which is always big, and you can't afford to do that when you're trading with a small capital. You understand? Even with a big capital, sometimes it's not still good. So how do we narrow our entry. That's why we make use of these levels. You understand? Now, for instance, you've already gotten that price. First of all, you have to wait for reaction from your zone. So we have a reaction already from this zone, which is this particular one. This reacted, but this was the major one, and it's aligned with our trend line break. So when we see that, the next thing we simply do is we want to see price fall from the top. You understand? We want to see price go into either another block, a zone, and fall. So we can see it went into this other block, this zone, and gave us a bearish reaction. You understand? Now this bearish reaction, I like to see that bearish reaction on the 1 hour. I like to see that bearish reaction on the 1 hour. So you can see a full 1 hour candlestick close. So after this whole 1 hour candlestick close, this bearish 1 hour candlestick close, is when I would like to now begin to look for an entry. You understand? So I will use this, I'll use a different color. Okay, no, I'll use a different color so you can be able to understand what I'm saying. Okay, good. So I'll use a different color, which is this. So now we can now go down to either the 15 minutes or the 5 minutes, any time frame you want to initiate your entry from. So these whole candlesticks are what we got on the 1 hour. So it simply means we've gotten our bearish candlestick close. So after a bearish candlestick close is when you can enter. But then, because this other block went above, it broke above, you can't just make such entry. You have to wait for price to come and candlestick to come and close below your next zone, which is this low. It closes below this zone. Like at this point here, you can now initiate your entry. So when you're initiating your entry here, you're going to be putting your stop loss above this high, hidden above this high here. So stop loss will be hidden above that high. Let's fix that. So if you're taking your entry at this point, stop loss hidden above this high, and then take profit on the 1 hour low. So basically this is how your trade is going to be, and that is how we initiated our entry on this particular one. So now, in order to give you guys a freebie, is there an opportunity at the moment? Yes, there's an opportunity at the moment. In general, we are looking out for price to get to this particular area, but at the moment we can see price is making retracements. So what can we do? We simply go to the line graph. On the line graph, we would mark our zone, which is this point A and point B. Mark that out. Remember, you need to get a clear break of this trend line before you can begin to initiate or look for an entry for a sell. So since we've not gotten that, we can simply say we are still on a buy. Can't say not really an uptrend, but we are still buy bias. You get, we've not gotten our sell confirmation. It's not good taking this kind of trade, but just for instance, I just want to give you an entry so you can see how it plays out. So we'll simply do what? We mark this area. Now we are marking these highs to the upside. I want to see how price reacts. So that is that. We move down to this point. We can now come. So what are we going to be looking out for? One thing I would simply say you should look out for is for price to come into this point properly, tap here and reject from this point. When it rejects properly from this point, that is your buy. You can simply decide to take your buy from here, set top loss at this low, and target this point for a take profit. Majorly, this is your major take profit, but then with what I understand and how I see and perceive this price market to react, that's what I'm telling you. So the trade will be this way. So the trade will be this way. You wait. You see, it came here to try to tap. It didn't tap. So your trade will be this way. You put your stop loss at this point. Some persons will prefer to put stop loss at this point, but then I just say you put your stop loss here, then take profits here. It's a small trade. It's just a very small trade, but let's see how it plays out. If it plays out as we analyzed, I'll do what? I'll still come out and show it to you guys. So let me take a screenshot of this trade, and that'll be that. We're already killing, and this is already 20 minutes. So I'll be ending the video here. I hope you guys picked a lot from this particular video and it was helpful. Do have a wonderful and blessed day, guys. Peace, one love.